Hey there, everyone, and happy Saturday. I am so glad to be back with you guys for another AMA on this Saturday. Definitely say hi to your friends in the chat. It looks like we are already going to have some celebrations today. First off, I believe Pam Vanderbilt sent in a super chat or a super sticker already. So thank you. Yeah, Pam, thank you for the super sticker. Much, much appreciated. And already today, I'm going to start out on a great note. Marcy, it sounds like you just passed your CPC exam and now you're a CPCA. So congratulations to Marcy. We are so excited for you. Guys, I just love coming here every Saturday and getting to chat with everyone and say hi on all three of our platforms. We are live on YouTube. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Facebook. So before we get into all of the excitement and questions, we're definitely going to get into and start the stream. So hey everyone, I am Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator. And on my channel, I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. Today, we are here for Saturday, just about every Saturday, unless I got something else going on and got to move it. I'm here at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to do questions and answers, hang out, and just talk to all of my good friends in coding as well. You can see I usually have my contacts in. Today I have my glasses because I took on a small project. So I'm going to be working the next couple of days actually doing some coding, which is so funny because I was just talking to my mastermind group the other day about how well my business is doing. And I'm like, oh, well, I've got a lot of things on autopilot and I don't want to lose my coding skills. I kind of want to set things up so that I can periodically take on just small projects here and there. Someone needs an audit or wants to finish up a backlog or something. So I can just do something maybe for a week or two or just a small project. And lo and behold, don't I get a call yesterday from someone who needs a project that's done in the next couple of days, and they're hiring a few coders to code on some operative reports. And I'm like, well, that's right up my alley. He said all the key words, flexible, remote, and work when you want. So I'm like, all right, in short term. So that was right up my alley. So perfect little way that I just kind of, I guess, maybe manifested that into my life. Really excited for that. So today I want to say hello to a few people. We could definitely have Marcy, and I know Pam is in here, my good friend Pam. And we have Deanne is in here today as well. We have, who else is here? Deborah, you're going to be catching us on the replay. So if you're here later on watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay in the comments of the video so that I know you're here and you're watching after the fact, because a lot of people do. We get a lot of people that watch after the fact. So yeah. Thank you so much. Hey, Pam's already in here. She's saying there's a lot of opportunity out there, and the tips Victoria give are fabulous recommendations. Stay in your books and good luck in the search. Yeah, definitely good luck to all of you that are out there looking for your first medical coding job. There's definitely some opportunities, but you have to have the right strategies in place. And I was watching, I think it was Social Hour the other day, and people were asking about, difficulty finding an entry-level position. And honestly, that's true of a lot of industries right now. So even if you're feeling, stumped, like, oh, well, did I make a mistake getting into medical coding? Honestly, a lot of industries are facing the same thing. You'll hear a lot of people saying, I went out and I spent all this time getting a bachelor's degree and I'm having a hard time finding a job. It's that first job is the hardest one to get to find. But don't worry, because it usually gets a lot easier after the fact, right? It's just that first hurdle feels like such a tough one to get over sometimes, but they're definitely out there. There are definitely entry-level positions. So let's see, where are we? So my question is, what is an entry-level job that I can apply for that will help me grow my skills in medical coding? There are a lot of them out there. If you look for some of the videos that I have one on the channel called Alternative Jobs for Medical Coders, and that gives a listing of different things you can look in for where you will use your medical coding skills, but aren't necessarily the job title of coder. So if you look for things like even patient scheduling, pre-authorization, medical billing, accounts receivable, I've heard that some coders, they get in by starting out as scribes. If that's something that you have the skill set for, that you think maybe you could start out as a scribe in a medical office, that's a great way to start getting familiar with your EMRs, with how providers are structuring their notes. So anything, even if you just look in your job search, like if you go to an Indeed.com and type in things like CPT or ICD-10, it will bring up all of the jobs that have CPT or ICD-10 as a skill set that they're looking for. So even if it's maybe not a medical coder position, they want you to know about CPT. They want you to know about ICD-10 CM. So you're going to use those skills. Those are skills that they're looking for, but maybe the job isn't necessarily medical coder, but it's starting to get you some information in there. Marcy saying, I just bought one module of Practicode. I think it's good real world training. It absolutely is. And that Practicode, I've purchased, not because when I started in medical coding, that Practicode did not exist. But they do have specialty modules, and I've done some of the specialty modules, which are set up exactly the same way as the full Practicode program is. And it is tough. When you finally get in there and you don't have your choice of 4, you've just got basically blanks. You've got a set of blanks for modifiers, a set of blanks for CPTs, a set of blanks for ICD-10 CM, and you have to just fill in those blanks. And you don't know if it's going to be 2 codes, 5 codes, 6 codes. So definitely stick with it, though. I think the Practicode is very good for getting that apprenticeship removal, because we are starting to see some jobs and positions that are posted where people are saying, hey, we want a coder but no CPCAs, because that's their thought process of those are the super entry level people if you're a CPCA, and this particular position isn't suited for someone who has not had some kind of exposure to medical coding in the past. Hey, thank you for your super chat, Rintu. I really, really appreciate that. Very much appreciated. So getting that apprenticeship removal is a good step. Now, if you're someone who's already working in the revenue cycle, you're already working in billing or working with codes or doing something that involves codes in some way, even if you're doing just scrubbing charges, which is another great way to get into medical coding. So sometimes if you're someone who's working in checking some of those edits, that maybe there's a mismatch, that they program the system that, oh, we know that this CPT code gets paid with these diagnoses, and it hits an edit and stops it, and we're going to have someone kind of look at that and maybe send it back to someone to re-review or determine, oh, we just need to reorder these diagnoses. Those are things that you can do as well. Jazzy is asking, Jazzy, I apologize. Any tips for the final test to become certified? I am halfway through my schooling. So there is a great test. There's a great way you can prepare for your test. So if you go to the main channel that I have, and just give me 1 second while I pull it up, because it always auto plays my video. Oh, wait. Oh, maybe it's not going to do it today. Hey, all right. So if you go to the main channel page right here, I have, hold on 1 second. I got to hook over my Chrome. We're going to go over to, here we go. Done. So if you go to the main channel page, I do believe I have a whole playlist. Yes, right here, CPC exam tips. So if you need some tips for taking your CPC exam, this is the whole playlist that you want to check. So I've got several tips. I think 4 videos just on exam tips, and then about whether you want to take it online versus in person, tips to pass the exam, how to tab your book, some of the myths. And then this is an older video. It still gets a lot of views though. But it's funny, as you progress through making videos of yourself, it's harder to watch some of your older videos, but since it still gets views and people say they still find it helpful, I keep it up there. So yeah, that's definitely a great resource that's available right there. I organized everything with CPC exam tips right in that playlist for you guys. So it's super, super easy to find and locate and get through that. Rintu is asking, is HPCC and auditing in the future a good combo? I think you're talking about HCC, right? The hierarchical condition categories, like risk adjustment coding. I'm going to assume that's what you're talking about. So risk adjustment, I think, is phenomenal. There are so many projects that have opened up during particular seasons when risk adjustment is being heavily reviewed. And that's great work for project-based coding. There's also a lot more positions that are opening up in the healthcare organizations to look at just diagnosis coding because of some of the quality programs that are out there that they don't want to leave money on the table, because of some of the new contractual agreements that we're seeing, that some of the commercial insurances are saying, hey, you know, we're going to give you more money if you meet all of these good quality metrics. You can keep the cost down. And we know that you're treating these really expensive patients that are projected to have a lot of expense, but keeping them out of a hospital, having that good preventative care so that they don't develop exacerbations, they don't develop comorbidities and additional costly conditions, and take care of them at the outpatient level so they don't get admitted to the patient, then they will sometimes pay them more in their contracts. So there's a lot more coding positions that are opening up in those healthcare organizations so that they can grab onto those opportunities of that additional reimbursement they're getting that's diagnosis based now. Auditing is also a fantastic, fantastic way. I've had my CPMA for about a decade now, and that has been one of the best credentials in getting me to next level up. So if you're looking to get into a more advanced coding role, I think the CPMA credential is really great for that, because that's kind of what opened the door for me to get into like lead coder positions, into high level auditing positions, into salaried position. That's another one of the perks sometimes of being an auditor versus just a straight coder, is a lot of the auditing positions are more salaried. So if you're looking to have kind of a little bit more flexibility, like, oh, well, it won't matter if I'm working an additional hour here, or I take off, 45 minutes for lunch versus 30 because I'm going to make it up here. You do have sometimes more flexibility being a salaried employee, which is more commonly seen in those higher auditing or lead coder roles. Shelby's saying she needs a part-time ER coding job, not sure where to look. So there's Indeed.com. That's a great place. I also love codersdirect.com. So you can check codersdirect.com, and they do have a specific section here just for part-time. So if you're looking for, for example, a CPC, and you're looking for remote work, you can go here, remote. You can go to your CPC. You can search, and this column here will tell you if it's full-time or part-time. So you can scroll through and narrow down to just the part-time positions. And if they're ones that are hiring both full-time and part-time, they will tell you that too. It will say full-time, and it will also say part-time. Let me see if I scroll here a little bit, if I load some more, because sometimes the site does take a little bit longer to load. So here, for this one example, it says remote HCC coders, part-time, full-time. So they have full-time and part-time listed here. If you're looking for ER, I'm trying to think, if you put in, there's not a specific search for that, but maybe if you did one of the, I think there is an ER coder certification, that one might pull up some more ER coder positions. So yeah, you can go into your RHIT, or you could just leave these blank and just look for remote and just have everything pull up and kind of scroll through there. You can also post here. So if you are someone who is a candidate, you can submit your profile and have employers find you as well. There's also some great job tips that I had on the video that I recently did with Kyle Johnston. So if you go to the main channel page and pull that up, that has a lot of really great tips. And I timestamped that video too, because there was just, thank you, Susan, for your super chat donation. I really appreciate that. That is so sweet and so kind. So if there is a video right here, I'll bring it up because it was pretty recent. That's medical coding part-time. Where is my Kyle Johnston interview? Let's see if we can find it here under videos. Yeah, this one, get hired. And I actually time-stamped this, so it should be at the very bottom that it tells you some of the tips on here for where to find entry-level jobs, and then using social media. So that one I think talks about some of the resources you can use with social media in particular to help land a job. Hey, Marissa Lynn, good to see you in here. Marissa Lynn's always up to something amazing. She has just had a fun career being a medical coder. I'm telling you, I'm jealous sometimes of some of the cool projects that Marissa gets. By the way, if you are interested, another way that you can support the channel is through some of the super chats and super stickers, like I'm getting the contributions right now. I also do have a channel membership that you can join. There's a little join button on YouTube. Channel membership members get to unlock custom emojis. They get to unlock community-only posts. And at the monthly subscription fee of $4.99 and $9.99, which is the gold and platinum level, you get your name added to the end credits of my videos. Next question. Yeah, so Pam, thank you for bringing that up. I do have I have 2 courses available that are full credential prepped right now for the CRC, Certified Risk Adjustment Coder, and the CPMA has launched recently, which is the Certified Professional Medical Auditor course. One thing that I just did with the CPMA course that I'm hoping to soon do with my CRC as well is I developed flashcards. So there is a student-only Quizlet that you can practice all of those different terms, which are really crucial for auditing for that credential. Knowing the difference between Stark, knowing the anti-kickbacks, knowing the just different terms that they ask you in the CPMA certification exam. So that's really cool. And I'm going to get that together hopefully soon for the CRC course as well. They don't have quite as many of the different terminologies as they do in the CPMA. Bobby says, why is it called coding? So they call it coding, and it's different from coding in programming coding. And that kind of brings me to a funny story. Someone said something about that recently in a forum that I'm in. They said, hey, does anyone else get questioned about people thinking that they do like computer programming because they're called a coder? And that I was funny that this happened to me once, but my daughter's Girl Scout leader knew that I was a medical coder. And she approached me during one of the Girl Scout sessions and said, hey, there's a Girl Scout badge that's called coding. And I was wondering if you could help out and do a session one day about what you do, and we could earn the coding badge. And I'm like, well, wait a second, because I don't do that kind of coding. Like, it was a badge with a little computer on it. So it was clearly like computer programming coding, not medical coding. But they call it, I believe, medical coding because it really is the process of taking text, of taking processes that the provider did and then documented and then converting them into what we call a code set. So our CPT codes are 5-digit codes. And when we have our ICD-10s, which are between 3 and 7 digits, and just looking at that whole piece of text and the process of it and transferring it into a code. So an ICD-10 code, a CPT code, a HCPCS code. So that's why they kind of call it coding. I was thinking today about how we've had a lot of discussions lately, not just me, but other streamers, other prominent people in the industry about AI and medical coding. And as I was working on this project that I'm working on right now, some of the things that were coming across my mind is like, well, this transfers to this code, but I think the provider actually did this. And if they'd have put this term in, it would have actually mapped over to this code. Like debridement is a perfect example. Providers will document debridement, but they won't maybe document the size. They won't say, oh, it was down to subcutaneous, it was down to musculoskeletal tissue or into bone, which are all different codes. And depending on if they omitted something, I as a medical coder can kind of see that and go, I have a feeling this probably went down to the muscle and they missed it, or maybe they missed an area and I could have coded it to something higher. So it's hard to program an AI to also notice what isn't in a piece of documentation. You can certainly code debridement or type in debridement and it's going to go, yeah, it's one of these codes. But to look at a whole piece of text, to me, that's kind of like equivalent to saying, hey, AI, like read this whole book and then populate the Cliff Notes version of it. It's a little bit more complicated or a little bit more difficult than I think some people think. So in any way, what is the easiest, inpatient or outpatient coding? So I primarily do outpatient or pro-fee coding. I've done that for, since 2007. I picked up a PCS book, and you'll hear differences of opinion between which is harder, inpatient or outpatient. I, being in pro-fee coding for so long, have always been so intimidated by inpatient PCS DRG coding because it's not familiar to me. And, when I look at the methodology of it, it seems so much more clinically inclined. And I don't feel as though I have the breadth of knowledge as some of these people who do the clinical coding, they sometimes even refer to it as, that you do for inpatient. So I think, I personally think inpatient coding is very, very difficult. If you ask my friend Brian Quee, he says that he thinks the Profi coding and the E&M in particular, he's like, oh, that's not familiar to me. So to him, that seems a little bit harder. So it really depends on what your comfort level is. Same kind of thing with just E&M coding. I could code E&M probably in my sleep. Maybe I might have a little bit more difficulty now with some of the nuances of the new ones, and now we're going to change some of the other E&Ms in 2023, says the AMA. So that some people might say that they can't stand E&M and they think it's terrible, and that might be hard to them. So as far as which is harder, kind of hard to say. It really depends on what your preferences are. Patty saying, I start my new job on Tuesday. Any idea what to expect for my first week in the physician coding department? So you're going to probably be learning a lot of processes. That's usually the first thing. So unless you're switching from department to department, your first week is probably going to be a lot of learning how to get into the software, how to log in, how to clock your time. And if you're lucky, they'll probably have you, I don't know if you're doing remote or in person, but usually in person, what they've done in the past is you kind of sit with different people and learn what they do. So there's probably going to be a lot of learning the new process, going through the employee handbook, and then learning kind of your specialty and how you get in, how you find whatever reports that you need to pull, how to get into them, how to code them. And excuse me one second, I need to block a user. And how you handle that as well. So when will I do more E&M practice? That's good. So I've been slowly putting some things together for E&M. I just got, per Pam, who's in the chat today, his recommendation, the E&M compendium. And I got the ebook version. So I'm kind of flipping through that right now too, to see some of the different things that are going out there as far as different nuances of the new E&M stuff. So getting E&M notes, kind of is hard. I usually pull things from mtsamples.com because they say, and I've even emailed them in the past, they're like, you can use this for whatever purposes as long as you credit back to us and say you took it from here. And that's what I typically pull. But since a lot of them have been on that website for a long, long period of time, sometimes I look at them and try to fit them into like the new E&M outpatient guidelines. And they don't always quite fit the mold, right? Because of the way that things were documented maybe 7 years ago and that they're documented today, or pieces that might be omitted. So once I can get a hold of some E&Ms or even craft some myself, because I do sometimes do that as well. Once I've seen office notes, probably hundreds and thousands of them in my time. Once I've seen so many, I can kind of mock them up, just not as good as someone who's an actual clinician can do. So I know I missed a whole bunch of stuff. So Gemma's asking about ICD-10 PCS. Is that limited for use in certain credentials like the CCS, or can someone with a CPC use it? So the difference is when you're preparing for the CPC, they don't train you in ICD-10 PCS. So I have seen coders that have a CPC credential and have gone into work into inpatient coding with ICD-10 PCS, but they don't train you in PCS when you go for Profi coding, because PCS is more for inpatient coding, for facility coding. I just heard my ding and I didn't see anything pop up. What the heck was that? Someone super chatted or something. Hold on one second. Did I miss it? I missed it. Okay. Pam, if you could get me redacted cases, I would certainly appreciate that. That would be wonderful. I always want to be very mindful of the fact that I don't own medical records when I look at them, that they're like the provider owns them. I know some people, they feel it's like, oh, well, it's, as long as I take the patient's name out, that doesn't violate HIPAA, but it's also not your content to take and use for different purposes. Okay, so let's see what other questions I have. Interesting, interesting. So we have a question here from Mrs. Faisal. I'm graduated in commerce. Can I do medical coding? So what you want to do is you'll need some training. In order to get from medical coding, you need to learn, well, first you need to decide what kind of medical coding you want to do. There's inpatient, there's outpatient, there's pro-fee, there's risk adjustment. So I always say if you're not sure what kind of medical coding you want to do, default to the CPC credential, like training for the CPC credential. You can go on aapc.com. They have training for that particular credential there. Now, if you don't know MedTerm and you don't know anatomy, you will need to pick those up first and foremost before learning medical coding, because it's really, really hard to learn medical coding if you don't have at least a baseline knowledge of medical terminology. And anatomy is definitely helpful on top of that. So that's helpful. You can get training through your local technical school. So my community college has a career program, or I guess a career school kind of subset. And they do a medical billing and insurance coding program for about $7,000. Now, the benefits of going through your community college is that you could probably get financial aid. You may be eligible for grants, but there's also cheaper solutions out there too. You can go right through aapc.com. You can go through CCO or Integrity Coding or Ohana Coding or Ozark Coding Alliance or what is it? My friend Kimberly. Oh, is it Jovalet Coding Institute? But there's a lot of different independent instructors who will help train you as well. Mallory, I am so happy that you have been following me since 1,000 subscribers. I'm at what, like almost 28,000, I think right now, 28,000, something like that. It's amazing how much the channel has grown. King is asking, are there a lot of men in this field? I will say I have a friend that refers to it as a chick-heavy field. So there are a lot of women in medical coding, but we are seeing quite a few more men in the industry. There's a lot of really prominent men in the industry right now. So Mike Misko, he's the head of our national advisory board for the AAPC. Amazing man. He is like so phenomenal and knowledgeable and like straight laced. Like I am probably the nega Mike Misko. He's just amazing. And I have like a rainbow clown wig and a bozo nose in comparison. So he's fantastic. There's Sean Weiss, who does compliance. He just started a new podcast with a couple of other guys that he works with. He's great. He's again another one that like he's way up here and I'm down here with my rainbow wig and bozo nose. And my friend Brian Quee, he does inpatient coding. He's phenomenal. There's Brian Simpson out there. There's a lot of guys. I'm probably forgetting some of the more prominent ones, and they're going to email me later and go, Victoria, I can't believe that you forgot about me. And yes, Sean Weiss has what is his live stream called? Compliance Guy Live. So if you're interested in the world of compliance, it's definitely one to check out. Teresa, I'm glad you're loving that book. Yeah. So if anyone here is looking for a book on medical terminology and anatomy, there's one that's just called Medical Terminology and Anatomy for Coding. And it's a phenomenal book. I'd pull it out, but I've been pulling out a lot of books in the past couple of days, so I don't know exactly where it is. Megan's asking, any tips for the exam? Yeah, so if on the main channel page, and I'll go back here. Hopefully it doesn't start replaying the videos. Main channel page, there is a playlist. This is all the videos. Okay, playlists. So I don't want to do that one because it shows some of my personal playlists when I do that. Okay. Playlists, CPC exam tips. That's all of my CPC exam tips. I think I also have some in here for the CRC and the COC. I'm hoping to get a CPMA video put together too soon. Oh, my membership videos. That's popped up. Was that up the whole time? No, it wasn't. Okay. So let's see here. Jevy's saying, I signed up for medical coding online class in March and be done in 3 weeks. Congratulations. That's a lot. That's a lot. You're like at the home stretch, right? Only got 3 more weeks left. And so let me know, are you planning on doing your CPC preparation after this? Like, what are you doing now? Are you going to go and take the CCA exam? I'm very curious what you're up to now. So D number 92 says, I'm volunteering at hospice. Is there anything that I can do now that will help me get a job in medical billing? So if you're doing anything at your current job where you are learning who's working there, where you're learning how to access the systems, even if you're looking at things like patient demographic information, looking up a patient's name and pulling it up in the system, those are all great things that can help you um, highlight your knowledge of how to work in a healthcare organization, because sometimes that's half the battle, is knowing how to get in and access the systems and manipulate through them. Even that you're familiar with some of the processes, some of the terms, how healthcare organizations maybe have certain protocols. Like if you're working in a healthcare organization, a lot of times they won't let you do things like have acrylic nails or dress a certain way. Just kind of knowing the professional protocol of working in healthcare. And then again, just knowing who the players are, how to talk to providers, how to work in some of those systems, even if sometimes things like being able to punch in and punch out can help you out. So Gemma, that's a great question. Is there a reason why some CPT codes need resequencing? So when insurances pay for your CPT code on the fee-for-service level, what they often do is that first code, they'll pay at 100%. But then sometimes the next code, they might only pay at 50%. And then further down, they might pay at 25 and then down to 0. So the reason that we resequence some of them is because we want to make sure that that one that has the highest dollar amount, which usually is the highest RVU one as well, has the first listed position so that we get paid 100% on the one that is the most expensive. And then the one that's the second most expensive would go second. The other consideration is maybe an add-on code. So you might want to sequence something so that here's our primary code and then the add-on code is underneath it. So that's usually why there's a resequencing of CPT codes, because we want to get paid 100% for the most expensive one versus 50%, 25, et cetera, et cetera. Marcy's asking, should I be reading through the CMS website, also CFR, NCCI, AMA, or any others? For the CPC exam, I would say that they don't test a whole lot on specific NCCI knowledge, other than kind of knowing that, like if a diagnostic procedure winds up becoming surgical, that you don't code the diagnostic, it all gets wrapped up into the surgical. So they'll test you a little bit on that kind of knowledge, but not necessarily nitty gritty details of what is in the NCCI edits. They're good things to get familiar with. As you progress as a coder, as you're looking to maybe get into an auditing role, those are certainly fantastic things to work on, knowing the NCCI edits, knowing what's in the provider manuals for CMS. I would definitely check. I'm not sure if they give any additional resources on the AAPC website for the CPC exam, but I know they do for some of the others. So for example, if we go over here to like certification for medical auditing, I know that they'll give you some additional resources that they want you to look at here. So prepare for the exam. And then it says additional preparation methods. So for this one, they give you some additional things to look at. I don't think they have that, though, for just the CPC exam. So if you're preparing for the CPC or a different credential, check and see if they have maybe some additional resources there. So here we go, prepare for the exam. And this one, let's see if they have additional resources. Here we go. Yeah, so it doesn't list like it does for the CPMA. You see that? It just has the online exam reviews and finding review classes. So not necessarily, going to look at the NCCI edits or anything like that. I know I saw Pam post something up here. about, oh, I missed it. There's too many comments coming in. My gosh. I don't know what the heck is going in today that I've got like, that's a third person I've had to block now from the stream. Do you believe it? So Vishnu is asking, hello, I am working as record management executive in healthcare. Can I do medical coding? I have done my 12th with arts. So my understanding is that just about anyone can do medical coding. You just have to get trained, get your medical coding certification, and then find a job. So unless there's something that specifically would restrict you otherwise, maybe a regional regulation or a something going on in your area that maybe you can't work for a certain reason or because of a visa or something. As long as you have your medical coding training, you're trained in ICD-10-CM, CPT, HCPCS, or if you're working in inpatient, ICD-10 PCS, and know how to calculate a DRG, then you can do that. Claudia is asking, hello, Victoria. I had my CPC certificate in March. I'm now working in a small medical billing office. Do you think that this experience can help me get rid of the apprentice status? I think so. As long as you're working with codes, that's kind of the key. From what I understand of the AAPC and how they look at the apprentice removal, it's based off of, are you actively working with code sets? So if we look, let's see if I can even pull it up on the website. Google.com. How to remove your ACPC. Okay. It's under, here it is. Say goodbye to your A. So when it says here, you need to, there's the 80 contact hours of education from your school or your Practicode, or let's see here. Contact hours coding preparation. Let's see. It says, okay. It says on the job experience, externships extended, using the CPT, ICD-10-CM, or HCPCS level 2 code sets. So it doesn't say that your title has to be coder. It says that you need experience using CPT, using ICD-10-CM, and using HCPCS. So if there's anything that you're doing where you're using those code sets, even checking to see if they got the CPT code paid with this diagnosis, or looking at edits, anything that you're working with the code sets, that will be considered for removal of your A. But again, the final decision really comes to the AAPC. They're the one that gets to determine. Brian, I have not taken the CCS. I have not taken that one. Maybe someday. I still have to learn ICD-10 PCS though, so maybe someday, but I have not yet taken the CCS. Do I know of any other practice modules offered online similar to Practicode? I want more practice. Wow, that's something else. If you've already completed Practicode and now you want more practice, like hats off to you, Mallory, because fist bump, because that's something else to get through Practicode and then to want to do more experience. I know OS2 has a Practicode-ish program. I'll have to think if anyone knows of anything, let me know in the chat, because I feel like I've seen one or two different programs that offer some hands-on Practicode style stuff, but off the top of my head, I wouldn't know what they are. Da, 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 da. Paul's asking, I already took the CPC exam and passed. Would I be allowed to take it again for a higher score if I wanted to? Once you've taken the CPC exam and passed, you are not allowed to take it again. So if you're wanting to get that Magna status, unfortunately, once you've taken it the one time, they will not permit you to test it again for a higher score. Which is better, coding or billing? It really depends on what your interests are. I personally have found that coding has a higher pay than billing, some more flexibility, but I know some people that are in billing and they just absolutely love it. I've known people that have gone from billing to coding and they go back into billing because they're like, I just like billing more. I have seen some of the billing positions starting to increase their pay, particularly for experienced billers, ones that really know how to get those claims paid. I wouldn't say one's better than the other. It really depends on what your interests are. Do you want to read through lots of operative reports and office notes and inpatient notes and all kinds of different documentation all day and dissect it and kind of sleuth and find out what the code is? Or are you focused more on, hey, here's all the stuff that I have to follow up on with the insurance companies, and focusing on getting all of that paid versus having to read? So some people, the intense reading and analyticals will deter them from coding, and then they'll stay in billing. Claire's asking, do I teach the CPC program? So currently I do not. I don't teach the full CPC program. I teach a review class, but I do not teach the soup to nuts CPT, ICD-10-CM. I'm putting something together, so it may be down the line. It's just a lot. And I want, if I put something out, for it to be really the true course or program that I want it to be, not just putting something out for the sake of putting it out. So if you are interested in getting training as a medical coder, I actually have an agreement with onlinedegree.com. So onlinedegree.com has designed a quiz that asks the exact same questions that I typically ask my viewers. Where are you located? How much money are you looking to spend on a medical coding program? How soon do you need to be finished with this program? And they will pair you up with an accredited school through a university or a career program. And they only work with legitimate programs. So you don't have to worry that you're going to get some kind of like fly by night, that, online course that's not going to teach you what you need. They're going to get you into a good program. And sometimes they have different perks that they offer only to my viewers. If you use my link over here, go to onlinedegree.com/contempo. So if you're looking for a course and a preparation for medical coding, you can definitely check them out. They will hook you up. Do I have any tips on denial case management? I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't done a lot of denial and billing stuff for a while. So a lot of the stuff that I've seen probably wouldn't be pertinent to what's going on right now in the billing and denial section of the revenue cycle. Oh yeah, Barbara, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, so there are specialty sections for Practicode. So there's ones for, I think they have a handful of them, like maybe 8 or 9 different specialties of Practicode that you can buy. I'm not sure if they use some of the same cases. I don't think they do, but I can't 100% speak to that because I've not done the full Practicode program. But yeah, they do have some specialty modules. Actually, let me see if we can find them so I can point you into the right direction. Let's see here if it's on here. Let's check over in Practicode. So if we go to Practicode, that probably, oh, here it is. So if you go to, let me move me to the other side here. Oh, that took away my thing. Hold on. I'll move me back over. There is, yes. Okay. Oh, there we go. So if you go to Books and Software and then go to Practicode, it will take you to this page. And then you have the one for the new and apprentice coders, that whole big remove your A Practicode program. And then they have this one for experienced coders, and you can purchase one of their specialty bundles. So they have behavioral health, cardiology. I have seen some pretty good deals on these periodically. So I bought a couple while they were on sale. So definitely check out, you can buy maybe one right now. And as you progress through, you can go ahead and buy some additional bundles. Like if you want some training in E&M. So for those of you that are looking for more E&M training and you don't have time to sit around and wait for Victoria to get a whole bunch of cases, you can go ahead and try the Practicode E&M sessions and see how that is. Byron, yeah, so you used to live out in York. I'm right in between Allentown and Reading, like right in between Allentown and Reading. I'm actually taking a staycation in Lancaster in a couple of weeks. I don't want to tell everyone exactly where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere super, super fun in Lancaster. Tanea, I hope I said that right. I apologize if I did not. Tanea saying, I am currently taking the CPC program through the AAPC online, and I'm struggling because I feel like I'm teaching myself, and it's honestly a little overwhelming. Any tips? So I posted, and everyone seemed to enjoy this meme about how in medical coding classes, a lot of times your instructor will just read the PowerPoint for a couple hours, and then you have to go on YouTube and figure out how to teach yourself the material. Truly, though, a lot of instructors, honestly, are just so phenomenal and so great. There's just so much information. There is so much information in medical coding. Every diagnosis and procedure and piece of equipment, right, known to man. So it's tough. And it's tough to manage. So a lot of the programs out there, they will give you kind of the baseline knowledge. And practice makes perfect. So practicing a lot, if you have a book like the step-by-step coding books, go through the practice cases, or if you have the CPC books, go through those practice cases and really start piecing things together. Like I said, there's just so much that a whole curriculum can't teach you the nitty gritty of every little thing. So it really is a lot of practice. There are videos like mine on YouTube that you can go in and watch if you're struggling with certain areas. And if you really need some more hands-on support, you can check out websites like Wyzant.com, WYZANT, Wyzant.com, or tutors.com, and you may be able to find someone to help support you in a tutoring sort of session. So look out there as well. Actually, while I'm on the subject of the step-by-step coding books, funny story, I started teaching medical coding at a technical school back in, oh my gosh, a long time ago. It was shortly after I actually was a coder. I was still a CPCA at the time. So I have the step-by-step medical coding books from 2011, I believe. I thought I stuck them back there, but they're from 2011, so like 10 years ago, maybe even earlier than that. They may have even been from like 2008 or 2007. And I was curious if they've changed some of the cases, like the cases that they give for you to code were different at all, or how much they've changed in the past decade or so since I was teaching with those books at the technical school. And honestly, they're pretty much exactly the same. I pulled out one of the chapters and it was the exact same questions. The only difference now was the blank, instead of saying ICD-9, says ICD-10. So they basically have been using the exact same cases for well over a decade. And I think a lot of that is true too, even for some of the AAPC's curriculum. If nothing has changed, there's no reason to rewrite the entire curriculum and recreate the wheel, right, and make new practice cases. So I've even said that in the past with things like study guides. People are like, oh, well, I'm getting the study guide now in 2021, and in a few months it's going to be 22, and then I'm going to have this outdated study guide. Well, chances are good that maybe 3 or 4% of the entire material has changed. I mean, if that. They're not going to want to change anything if they don't have to, just like the rest of us. Like if it's working, why would we change it? Da, 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 da. Mallory is asking, do employers let you use Codify to complete your pre-employment test? It depends on the employer. If you're going in person, usually they'll give you paper books or want you to bring your own books. Most employers are going to want you to use something like a book or an Encoder program or Codify to complete the pre-employment test. If you're not sure, what you should do is when you get called by that particular employer or recruiter and they say, hey, we need you to take a pre-employment test, ask them, say, should I be prepared with my books? Am I going to be permitted to use an encoder? I've not had one personally where I've done an assessment online. I could imagine there might be some, if you're doing it online, where maybe they lock out certain processes that you can't go into Google or something. But I honestly don't know. If anyone's taken one remotely, definitely let us know in the comments in the chat, because I'd be curious kind of how they might navigate making sure that you're not being untruthful or using resources that maybe they don't want you to use during a pre-employment exam. I know that there's been some in-person ones where we've had people kind of keep their phones and stuff aside because we don't want them going on their phone and Googling answers. Paul is asking, when, if ever, will the US go to ICD-11? So that's a good question. And I did, unfortunately, it seems like scare a few people recently, because I did make a little short video on ICD-11. So ICD-11 is available for use starting January 1. So available for use is not the same as going to be used. It doesn't mean that we're going to start using ICD-11. So in order to transition to ICD-11, we're going to have to do a lot of the things that we did when we transitioned from I-9 to I-10. We're going to have to update all of our software. We're going to have to train the coders. We're going to have to learn, even from what I understand of ICD-11, because of how close it is to the SNOMED definitions, it is really more a search tool versus something that you can open up and look up in a book. So even as far as certifications, we might have to plan for, if we don't have paper books, how are we going to utilize a search database for testing purposes? And there's just so much different software that has to change. The insurance has to change all of their policies, then they have to change their software based off of the new policies, even as far as coverage and things. So there's a lot that goes into it. And then of course the providers have to be a little bit educated as well. So I would not anticipate that ICD-11 would be coming for at least another 5 years. ICD-9 to I-10 in the US was delayed, but I personally don't think it will be for at least another 5 years until we go to I-11, or even start planning maybe for I-11 in the United States. But that was a good question, yeah. I'm sure other countries will be going on ICD-11 way before the United States will. Mary Ellen is saying, is the Practicode format considered an encoder? It is not. So I have a video on just showing you a little bit of encoder. I don't show you any of the cases that are an encoder, because that would not be appropriate to share that content, but I do show you a little bit of the structure. You can use an encoder when you are using Practicode. So let me see if I can find my Practicode video so I can show you where it is. So here is the video that I have on Practicode, where it shows you just a little bit of what it looks like when you log into Practicode. And let's see if I can skip over through some stuff here. What is it doing? Here we go. There's the RVU calculator. Log in. So yeah, so when you log into Practicode, it's going to give you basically blanks to put in your different CPT codes, your different diagnosis codes. This blurred out section over here is where the note that you're going to be coding is. And an encoder, I can show you that as well. Let me show you what an encoder looks like. And I apologize, I heard my bing, and I don't know if that was a bing because I got a new subscriber, or a bing. I don't think it was a super chat. Let me log in real quick so I can kind of show you what Codify looks like. Software, Codify. Okay. So when you're working in Codify, it looks more like this. It's more so using to replace your code books to some degree. So if I type in a code up here, 11403, my number lock. The keyboard never has my number lock on. So if I type up a code here, it'll tell me the description. I can look up the lay terms for it. I could type up here, let's say debridement. And then it'll bring up different types of codes that are potentially related to debridement. So here's some ICD-10-CM suggestions. Here's my CPT different codes that may have debridement in the title, so I could kind of look up the code that way. So you can use an encoder product when you are doing your Codify, but Codify is not it. You can use an encoder product like Codify when you do your Practicode, but Practicode doesn't have an encoder involved into it. So how much difference between CPC versus COS in the study guide? Does COC cover questions into the CPC? I have heard the COC referred to as like the CPC plus some extra, and that is to some degree true. There's a lot of things, though, that are in the COC that you will not absolutely find in the CPC. Things like the payment methodology, knowing the difference between the outpatient prospective payment system and the inpatient prospective payment system, knowing about the different payment status indicators. So there's more even like HCPCS things related to the COC exam. So COC does cover a lot of stuff that's in the CPC, but it doesn't work kind of vice versa. So the COC has more information than the CPC does. Is there a time when book CPT, ICD-10-CM, and HCPCS become obsolete? That's possible. It could happen eventually. A lot of us still like our paper books. I've even told Pam I have both the paper version and the ebook version of the CPT manual, but I prefer my physical version. I like being able to flip through it. If I was looking at it on a Kindle or something, like I was reading it that way, I might like my CPT ebook a little bit better that way, but not so much for my daily coding activities. I prefer to just have my paper book, or sometimes look things up in the Encoder, kind of depending on what I'm doing. Loretta is asking, is the ICD-10 2020 edition allowed for the test? It is for the AAPC tests. HEMA is a little different. I know they have certain cutoff dates and certain books that they will and will not allow you to use. But let me get back to my AAPC site over here, and I can kind of show you what their terminology is, because I like to always refer back to what is the source. So what do they specifically say on their website? So let me quick log out here. And if we go over here to, actually, let me Google it. AAPC. If you go into Google and type in AAPC exam FAQs, that's what will bring up all of the information that you can find pertaining to exams with the AAPC. So what they say over here is, what year's books should I use? And it tells you that they do recommend that you use the current year's books. You can use the previous year's books, but you might be at a slight disadvantage because of some of the code updates that have happened. So you are absolutely permitted to use them, especially if you've written a ton of notes in there and it would take you days to recopy those notes into a 2021 book. It really depends on, how much risk do you really want to take on, are some of the codes that have changed or been updated, like what out of the tens of thousands of codes that are out there, what is the risk of them possibly being on the specific version of the exam that I have, that they pulled out of that test bank, they're on this version, and is that going to make or break me passing the exam? In some cases it might not, but again, that depends on how much risk are you willing to take, that could be something that could make or break you passing or failing the exam. Pam, you have your books back to 1998. I keep back usually about 3 years. If it's more than that, I believe my encoder has a way for me to look up some of the previous codes. So I don't keep more than 3 years. I occasionally will will come across one that I've had since like 2008 or something, and it's kind of fun to look at. I don't think I might still have an old ICD-9 book somewhere. I don't know if you saw, I was just talking about recently in one of my videos about how I took a pre-employment exam, and I don't know if they still make this edition anymore, but the lady who was interviewing me had an older, it was I9 at the time, ICD-9. She had this older version where I don't know if it was like clipped into a binder or something, and they would ship you the updated pages every year. Like you could just buy updated pages and you would pull out the old pages and put in the new ones. And she gave it to me for this pre-employment exam. And I could not for the life of me. I'm like, where is my index? Where is my like, I could not figure out this code book. It was something else. What time are we at? Oh my gosh, we're actually at time. It's 3:00 already, you guys. I can't believe it. We had so much fun. I got so many great questions here today. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that has subscribed. I saw Tanea is here, is subscribed. Edward Butler has subscribed. Thank you to everyone. So So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you all coming in. If you haven't already, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys for a live stream next week. And until then, just keep on coding on.